All right, diving right in, you guys requested this one, channeling messages from spirit guides, angels, you name it. And we've got some really interesting stuff to go over, like actually how to do it.
Yeah, and you know what really stands out to me about all this is just how accessible it seems to be. It's not just reserved for like some chosen few. It's like there's this whole other level of support and wisdom that anyone can connect with.
Exactly. And it
Yeah.
does mention this idea of creating a sacred space. And, whenever I hear sacred space, I'm like, oh man, do I need to, build a temple or
Yeah.
something?
Right. Uh-huh.
But the material suggests it's really much more personal than that.
Absolutely. It really is more about an internal shift than than any sort of external ritual. It's about, finding that stillness within to really be receptive to that subtle guidance.
So what would you say are some practical, like tangible things that someone could do to sort of create that shift, especially if they're, just starting out with this?
Well, it really can be as simple as finding a quiet corner in your home. Somewhere you feel at peace. You can dim the lights, maybe light a candle if you like, or use some essential oils that really resonate with you. It's more about creating that atmosphere that feels calming and helps you kind of turn inward.
Mm.
And then from there you can do a little bit of deep breathing, some meditation, even just some gentle stretching to just quiet the mind. And then from that stillness, that's when you can really set the intention to connect with your guides.
I love that you really emphasize that internal aspect of it,
Yeah,
because it's not so much about the physical environment, it's about creating that space within.
exactly.
So let's say someone has, they've created that peace, that inner stillness, and they've invited their guides in. What happens next?
Well, the material here talks about receiving messages through thoughts, visions, feelings. And it really is. It's almost like you're tuning into a frequency that you haven't quite picked up before.
So sometimes it can be really loud and clear, like a sudden like aha moment,
Yeah. Oh,
where
yeah.
you just have this like clarity or a resolution to something. And other times it's much more subtle. It might be just like a persistent feeling that's kind of nudging you in a certain direction. Or it could be a recurring symbol that keeps popping up in your dreams, or even just a sense of knowing about something that you can't quite logically explain.
So it's really about paying attention to those subtle cues, those whispers almost.
Exactly. It's like learning the language of your intuition.
Yes. Okay, so speaking of unique languages, the material also mentions some tools, things like tarot cards, oracle decks, pendulums. I'm really curious about like how those actually work to facilitate this communication.
Well, it's important to remember that these tools they're not about fortune telling
Right.
or dictating the future. They're more like amplifiers of your own intuition, helping you to tap into the wisdom that's already within you. So could you give an example maybe of how that works?
Yeah, so let's say you're using tarot cards and you're grappling with a decision.
Okay.
And you pull the strength card,
Yeah.
with its imagery and all its symbolism.
Yeah.
Well, it might not be, a direct message from your guides per se, but more like a reflection of the strength that they see in you.
Wow.
Almost like an encouragement to trust your own resilience.
So it's less about getting like a literal answer and more about using it as a jumping off point for
Exactly.
deeper reflection and self-awareness.
Precisely. And it's a really important point because channeling, it really is more than just about, getting answers. It's about self-discovery and spiritual growth.
Sure.
It's about developing a much deeper connection to your own inner wisdom.
So it's almost like it shifts it from being a passive thing
Yeah.
to being a much more active process.
Absolutely.
We're not just, vessels for information,
Yeah.
but we're actively participating in this communication.
That's a great point. And this material does mention the importance of intention and the energy that you bring to the practice. And
Right.
and the more clear you are about your intention to connect and the more sort of positive energy that you bring to it, the more profound that communication can be.
So it's almost like a feedback loop. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Exactly.
Wow. That's fascinating. This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Yeah, it has.
We covered how to create that sacred space. We
Yeah.
talked about the different ways messages can come through and even, those tools. But here's what I keep thinking about. If we can actually affect the communication through our intention, through our energy, What does that say about our connection with those guides? Is it a collaboration?
Hmm.
It's something to really consider as you continue to explore all this.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about there.
Thanks for diving in with me on this,
Of
Mark.
course, my pleasure.
I'm definitely going to be spending some time with all of this.
Yeah, me too, me too.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next deep dive.
See you then.